this is Leon. That's right, Leon, for some of your favorite movies. And I'm at brunch in the basement with Terez and JaVonne. Stay here with me. Stay here with me. Stay here with me.
Still in the basement, no longer alone, with my homegirl Terez on the microphone. Music, politics, or just chatting it up. Brunch in the basement, see, that's what's up. You never know who might run through. Legendary artists or someone brand new. You miss a lot when you miss one day. At least that's what I heard somebody say. But it doesn't really matter what whoever says. It's always a good show with JaVonne and Terez. Yeah. Brunch in the basement with JaVonne and Terez. Yeah. Let's see who we got today. Come on, everybody's a friend in my head. I already know everybody. Whatever it is, it's gonna be good. One day I'll tell you about me and Shaka Khan, but you know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but she doesn't know anything about it. But anyway. No, she doesn't. She wasn't even there actually. But anyway. The time,
and we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank you. This part, that little piece, I'm just gonna keep and play it all the time for myself. But no, I'm just teasing. Hey everybody, welcome to Brunch in the Basement with JaVonne and Terez. So I'm excited to be here today. It's been a very, very busy and interesting morning. And let me just first say good morning to you, Pops. Always the first one in queue. Love you to pieces. And we're going to have an exciting show. So I just wanted to check in and make sure everybody is feeling good. And yeah, actually, I have something brand new to share with you all. Mr. Steve Arrington, as you all know, was a guest on the show not too long ago. And good morning, Terry. We were sent a new track, an exclusive. It hasn't really been released yet. And so I think I'm going to kick off the show by playing that for you all. And let me know if you dig it. This is the latest by Mr. Steve Arrington. The name of the song is Keep Dreaming. Right here on WJBR Internet Radio, Brunch in the Basement with JaVonne and Terez.
I'm never gonna hold back. I told myself I'm never gonna look back. I made up my mind. I made up my mind. Keep dreaming. Keep dreaming. It's what I'm gonna do, yeah. Keep dreaming. Gonna see this thing through, yeah. Keep dreaming. Keep dreaming, yeah, 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 yeah. I said just the other day, I'm on my way. I said just the other day, I'm gonna have it my way. It don't matter to me how long. The focus in me so strong, baby. I take a bite of this truth I'm on. My mama said, keep on going, baby. Keep dreaming. Keep dreaming. It's what I'm gonna do, yeah. Keep dreaming. That's what I'm on, yeah. Keep dreaming, yeah. My mama said, keep on going, baby. Keep dreaming. Keep dreaming, yeah. Keep dreaming. Keep dreaming. Keep dreaming. Keep dreaming. Never
That was exclusively Mr. Steve Arrington. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you dig it and how much you dig it. Yeah, yeah. And so, of course, today we have Mr. Guy Davis coming on later on in the show. I'm excited for that. He is also the son of the one and only son, actually, of the late great Ossie Davis and the beautiful legendary Ruby Dee. So that has to be exciting. Also, he's a Grammy nominated blues singer, and I believe he might be bringing his guitar with him. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Back when prohibition was the law of the land, politicians knew we didn't understand that drinking was the way that laws got made. They got laid and bribes were paid. When the white bootleggers got sent to jail, nobody couldn't come go their bail except for Kokomo Kid. I'm talking about Kokomo Kid. Now when liquor got cut down, the government almost shut down. They needed a bag man who looked like a rag man, who better than a black man to come serve the white man his Gucci-fied liquor a whole lot quicker than a white bootlegger could do. They call me Kokomo Kid. Call me Kokomo Kid. she counting for the governor of a state down south. On the bottom when I got him, when I shot him in the foot, trying to keep his size 10 out his mouth. They call me Kokomo, Kokomo Kid. My name's Kokomo, Kokomo Kid. Come get the shovel, dig a hole, Papa, come get the shovel, dig a hole in the ground. I was living in the rough, I was living on the tough, I was lifting up to live, I was living off the grid, but then they found me. They want to use my skills, gave me money so I could pay my bills. They call me Kokomo, Kokomo Kid. They call me Kokomo, Kokomo Kid. Washington insiders want drugs and sex. It ain't about who's rich, but who connects. You gotta know the ropes and who to go to. Who did your favors and who do you owe to? Now, office to office, I can hack your email. Find out if you like male or female. I keep secrets if you say so. But everybody knows you got to pay more. To Kokomo, Kokomo Kid. They call me Kokomo, Kokomo Kid. I've calmed all of Washington's fears. I've kept the Supreme Court high for years. You got governors, senators, even representatives waiting for my drop-off medicine for a bad cough. I got a meeting at 3. I gotta bring coke to the GOP. They call me Kokomo, Kokomo Kid. They call me Kokomo, Kokomo Kid. Call me Kokomo, Kokomo Kid. Call me Kokomo, Kokomo Kid.
What the hell is Kokomo Kid? Wow. Oh, we get to talk about that for sure. Very, very funny. Good morning, everybody. I think JaVonne just popped out to clear something. How's everybody doing? Happy Saturday. Today's the day we won't get back and praise for another good day God made in this piece. How's everybody doing? Good morning, P Boogie. Good morning, Lulu. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, Pop. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. We'll see. Kokomo Kid. That's an interesting, funny one. And the banjo playing and all of that. It's hilarious. Hope everybody had a restful week. Everything is with your families are well. Welcome to another edition of Brunch in the Basement with JaVonne Terez, WJBR Internet Radio on YouTube. And everybody, please like and subscribe the YouTube channel. Yay, 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 yay. Let me see. Hey, good morning, Pop. How's everybody doing? I want to say good morning and a special shout out to Bella, my great niece. And she's probably watching and doing her little shimmy as well. Hi, morning. Hi, Bella. Just want to say good morning to everybody. And you are watching and listening to Brunch in the Basement with JaVonne Terez, WJBR Internet Radio, with a special guest today. Yes, Mr. Guy Davis. He is the blues man, and he coins himself as the ambassador of the blues, which is wonderful. And for those of you who don't know, he is the son of our late great legends, Ruby Dee and Ossie Davis. So I think they had 2 children, and he is the only male child of Ruby and Ossie. And we are delighted to have him here today. And, we're going to chop it up with him and get to know some of it. And I think he's an amazing guitarist. And boy, I just can't wait to sink in some questions about, what it was like growing up with the legends, and particularly in this time, because I know he's seen a lot, and they were on the front lines of a lot of civil rights and activist platforms, and would just love to be able to know what his experience was like through his lenses, and how that fortified his own position with jazz, blues, and quite a few things. I know he has very unique opinions with all of that, all of those topics and all of those things around him. That I like to call it the soil for the fruit that grew out of that. He had tremendous fertilizer. So just wanted to drill down on that a little bit with him to see what's happening. And JaVonne, I'm sure, will pop back up in 2.2 seconds. With this internet thing, it could be 3 children. Okay, 3 children. Got it. And she will rejoin us in a few minutes. See, I could read and talk at the same time. Just don't look at you guys. But one of 3 children that Ruby and Ossie had. And wonderful, and often wonder, for children of like either civil rights activists like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, what, because their parents tilled tremendous soil for their children, and what that was like through their lenses growing up. I know that, in the case where we're talking, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, in our history, we know that, we know the endings for both were the same way, pretty much. And, that was traumatic for the nation. So I can't even imagine what that was for them. It's beyond, anything we could probably fathom. And also what it was like on a daily basis, because Malcolm and Martin, quite frankly, they were at a time when this country was really, really just, and not that we still aren't, let me just say that, we consider ourselves a distance from that time. It just got more sophisticated with regard to how it treats people of color and the native indigenous people to this country. So, then it wasn't as sophisticated. Let me just say that, because it's still around. There's really honestly no difference, but it is, the difference is it's now more sophisticated the way it's done. It's done through the economy. It's done through modern day slavery. It's done through a lot of other things that you've heard me speak about religiously on this program. So, so Guy is one of 3 children, and thank you, Pop, for chiming in on this. It's Nora Davis, Guy Davis, and Hasna Muhammad. So there are, it's a lot of information, and I wonder how all that information translates through his gift of song, because from what I understand, he's a self-taught musician, and that in and of itself is very unique. But he's a self-taught musician, and he probably, it's filtered through some of the melodies and chords I didn't know. I love the fact that I didn't know about too much about his life. So today's a learning session. Class is in. I love that. I love meeting new people and learning about their journeys, because we are in alignment of our journeys. And sometimes we can, as folk, we all have a lens that we see the world in, right? And sometimes in that lens, it's broken. The glass is a little shattered, like a kaleidoscope. And it's but the lens is your experiences as a person, and it's very, very, very unique to you, and 2 people can be in the same situation with 2 unique perspectives about the experience of it. So I always love to hear, because that's not something you can debate. Somebody else's point of view. It's just that, their point of view. It's not going to break or make you, in any regard, but you can walk out with a jewel that you didn't walk in with. And that's the jewel of understanding, which could shape or break your perspective. You know, as we move forward in life, life is just a series of perspectives that, you know, you win some, you lose some, and then, you know, and there she is. How you doing, Silky Silk?
I'm doing okay. How are you? How are you?
I'm hanging. I'm good. Taking
Hanging?
one day at a time. Yes. Yes.
Tell you, this morning has been very busy technologically. It has been, I, I, I'm hoping it's been a learning experience for me. I hope at the end of the day, I walk away knowing something or realizing something that I hadn't realized or known earlier.
Okay.
Because what a friggin' I thought my computers and everything was just going to freaking explode. That's how I thought everything. Yeah. You know, what do I always say about myself? Doing too much. There you go. Doing a project for someone, you know, someone's little girl graduating high school, doing that project, trying to do a project for Mr. Davis coming on. You know, I wanted to give him bells and whistles. All of that shit crashed. So sometimes keeping it simple may be the answer.
Yo, more than sometimes. And I'm not talking about your technical stuff. I just mean like really keeping it simple. You know, like, you know, some of us were, I wasn't in, we had to actually count. When I went to school, we had to count, we had to add, subtract, multiply, divide. And then they threw this algebra at us and they threw that geometry at us. And, you know, we actually had to do it. We had to use our minds and wrap it around the solutions to the problem. And I think for my generation, I think that's, you know, what we still try to do, you know, in other ways outside of math. And sometimes we just have to keep it simple. I remember my reaction when I was first told, and I forget which one of the kids told me this, but you know, they were like, "Well, the teacher let us use our calculators." I was like, "Calculator?
Yeah, right."
What?
I know.
And I went into this tirade about how the teacher was doing them a serious disservice and yada yada yada. And although I have my opinions on it still, you know, I thought to myself, that's not their world. You know, that's not their world. You know, and you know, and as we progress with 2-year-olds learning how to operate computers, you know, and the little thumbs, with thumbs and a pacifier. I literally watched this. You know, I watched my great niece, who's 3, and she's just a pacifier and thumbs, and I'm like, what? But you know, that's
where we are.
That's where we are, man. That's where we are.
It's amazing time. Let me do this right quick. Let me just see if we can get the blog talk going on. I mean, it's really been, this is something that ordinarily you guys wouldn't have to hear or experience. And I don't even know if we're going to be able to. I guess I'm still in a little experimental stage.
Okay.
But they're just so many things going on right now, actually. And my poor mom, she's always trying to hang in there. You know, I see that she called.
Mom.
I don't know if she's, let's see if we can get her. If Mom, are you there? Okay, I just see her number. She must have called earlier while I was fidgeting around. I know she's like through with me. If I was my mom and she was not my mom, as much as she loves this show, she's going to continue to try to support because she is my mom and she's my biggest advocate, has always been my #1 fan. But I would have quit this show months ago had I been her, because she's only trying on the Blog Talk Radio thing, and as you know, we've experienced a lot of struggles with that. And actually, I'm just gonna end it. I'm gonna well, for today anyway. I think I'm just gonna give up the battle, but then I can't, Rezi. I just can't.
You're not a quitter.
I'm just not.
Just not a quitter.
I'm not. But you're right about. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's see what happens here. Welcome to my world. Okay.
Your show now. Press 1.
Let's
To
press
hear important
1.
Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are
Oh.
reconnecting you now.
Oh, thank you. Because
Your show will go live in 5
it
seconds.
was not
4,
live before.
3,
Okay.
2,
Let's see what happens.
1.
Okay. Oh, there's this intro music. Still in the basement, no longer alone. With my homegirl Terez on the microphone. Music, politics, or just chatting it up. Brunch in the basement, see that's what's up. You never know who might run through. Legendary artists or someone brand new. You miss a lot when you miss one day. At least that's what I heard somebody say. But it doesn't really matter what whoever says. It's always a good show with JaVonne Terez. Yeah. Brunch in the basement with JaVonne Terez. Yeah. Let's see who we got today or what we doing today or whatever it is it's going.
Uh-oh.
Good. Somebody's frozen again. Uh-oh. 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 I tell you, it's you know, it's always, it's never boring. I'll tell you that much. Never boring. Can you hear me, Rezi?
I can.
Okay, good.
Loud and clear.
Okay, so when we first came on, I played a new song that Steve Arrington sent me. So people let me know what you think, what your thoughts are.
Was that the banjo song? What was that?
No.
That last one?
The banjo song was Guy Davis.
Okay.
Which when he comes on, I believe he's coming with his guitar.
Ooh, what's her name? Oh,
That I don't know. We have to ask.
okay. Yeah, BB got me asking folks about, I ask random musicians, particularly musicians that play the guitar. Does she have a name or is it a she,
Right. I mean, most male guitarists like to strum a female named, give them these, whatever. But some badasses name it after a male, which I think that's pretty fucking fierce. I mean, if you're a male and you're making a man sing like that, like how some of these dudes can make their guitar scream. I mean, you're a badass. And let me just tell you, on Wednesday, people were actually, and Debbie was one of them, and good morning, Debbie.
Good morning, Debbie.
I miss Terez.
Aww.
And I'm like, she'll be back. Old chopped liver here, we'll try to hold it down.
Not old chopped liver. I can't.
It's okay. We try to hold it down while she goes.
What am I gonna do with you? Old chopped liver, hilarious.
Yeah. But and she wasn't the only one, man. When you're not here, I miss you. I miss
being here. It's so funny because of the last couple of shows, I had some personal stuff happening and I just had to, reprioritize a bit, but missing it nonetheless, because this is absolutely very therapeutic and fun for me too. And, I'm back working on it and strumming my pain with my fingers. Oh, yes. Nice quote. Quote. Yeah.
This is so you notice our latest trick here, right?
I see that.
And I don't know whether or not you got an opportunity to watch Stanley's interview, which we missed you dearly.
How's he doing?
He is great, but some of the things that, and we talked about the fact that we need to get back together and do another project before November. You know, maybe
Sounds
during
good.
the fall we can get together. And I told him, you know, because it was some, it's necessary for us to do it now. That's all I'm going to say about that. You know what I'm saying? But I was able to show some stuff, and it was so good. But you know what? Just because it's so. We were talking about a movie he was in called what was it? Minstrel Man. And how back then the movie took place right after the ending of slavery, and how as actors, for Black people, the only acting jobs you could really get, you had to blacken your face and then put white paint around it. Ta-da, right? So it was him and Glenn Turman and some other people that you would recognize. And but Stan was the young person, like the younger brother in the movie, and he was like, how much longer are we going to stand for this? And looking back at that reality and where we've come, where there's still, so I played a clip, and as a matter of fact, I'm gonna play it now for you.
Okay.
And let's have a quick discussion. Run the tape, please.
Better give them what they want before they pull this whole place down. Better give them what they want before they pull this whole place down.
Harry, you promised.
Get chairs on stage.
Everybody in the makeup. Ready? Start them on Camptown races. Albert, get the band on Camptown races. Right.
Gentlemen, is that not touching devotion? Mr. Bones here attending his sick horse so faithfully that his own health broke down.
Afternoon, neighbor. Afternoon to you. Howdy, friend. Well, you boys gonna just stand there gawking? Or you gonna move aside for a white man? Why, yes, sir. Step right on past, sir.
Say, Bones, ain't that Mr. Bill from up on the hill?
Yeah, now, Mr. Interlocker, I can't be sure. You know most all white peoples looks alike to me. Even your wife, Mr. Bones.
Perhaps it's time for a song. I wonder, would you favor us, Mr. Bones?
I'll be honest. I have a riddle for you, Mr. Interlocutor.
What is your riddle, Mr. Bill?
Do you know why there are no white folks in the audience?
Well, no,
Because they all have red necks. Hell are you trying to do? Kill, don't kill. How long are you gonna take it, Harry? How long are you gonna go through this humiliation and abuse? When are you gonna stop fighting back? Not when there's more than 200 drunken yahoos out there just waiting to shoot my black butt off. Come on, everybody, get your stuff. Let's get on out of here. Get the train. Get your stuff. Let's go.
Wow.
Yeah. And the amazing thing, Rez, was watching, because I can see you while you're watching the video. So I can see your reaction and watching his reaction to his own acting, but just it was, that piece was just phenomenal, and that acting was phenomenal, and that period, and that act to do something as bold and crazy as that.
What year was that?
That was in 1973 or 4.
Yeah. You know how you tell, and it's against fundamentally any principles that we know, right? Let's take this one, for example, that when we encourage our kids, and this is universal to all kids, you encourage, as they're developing, you encourage them to use their words, right? And to talk things through, and to do things in a nonviolent way, right? We all want our kids talking and making healthy choices and all that. But then, there's a generation of folks that have been taught by virtue of action and safety to suppress what you think and feel, and to carry all of that on a daily basis, the suppression, the need to survive in this climate had us choking up on some real toxic shit and carrying that around with us. And that's why I say some things are cellular, because we don't even know why we respond to it like it's an allergic reaction, but we do. And it's very evident. So now we have, which I'm super duper proud about, is we have a generation of kids now. And I don't mean kids in a negative way. I mean children, youth, younger, that have decided that they're not suppressing, have decided that enough is enough, and have decided that it's at the risk of whatever, and if I can misquote Tupac for a second, I say that because, I'm just going to tell you what I was able to redact from his very famous interview about his analogy, what he talked about when you're knocking on doors and you're seeing people do things and you're asking them at first, and then you start off again by, and then each time you have to ask for something that should be rightfully yours, it's going to change, because it goes from please to can we to what's going on to hold up, and it goes to kick in the door, wave in the 4-4, but the reality is we asked you. Now you're paying attention, like it just, but we've been saying this all along. We've been calling out complicity all along, for folks that don't think that they are racist, people of color do not have the capacity to be racist. We can be prejudiced as fuck, but we do not have the capacity to be racist. I've heard a lot of reverse racism. No such thing. We do not have the capacity in this country to be racist, or any country for that matter, because we do not have the capacity to oppress. Racism is an action of oppression, systemic oppression, based on the color of skin and based on white supremacy. So anybody that was confused about that definition, there it is. There's no such thing as reverse racism. Black people, brown people, the most they could be is prejudice as fuck, based on things, either things or emotions felt that, but not racist. Okay, so that was interesting in 1977, and for that to be still, going on today. And there's always been revolutionary folk, even in the 77s, but there were a lot more of us going along to get along, to stay safe, to keep our families safe, because the bombings were real, for a lot of people. The lynchings were real, the hoses were real, the dogs were real, the just all of that was for real, And
one of the things that Stanley said about doing that scene, shortly after that scene, there's a lynching, right? I mean, and it's okay, but there was a lynching, and he said that in preparation, now they filmed it in Alabama, according to him. So in preparation of that scene, which and it's funny because I watched the movie. The movie is actually available on YouTube. You can watch the whole movie on YouTube, which is what I did the night before the show. So that must have been Tuesday night. Anyway, So there's a lynching, and I wanted to talk about that scene a little bit, but we didn't even have to do that, because what he said was that it took so long for them to prepare that scene. And there was a whole bunch of people standing around and working and everything, and there was this one white guy who was standing, around watching them prepare the lynching scene. And it took, he said, I don't know if it took 10 hours or it took a long period of time to get it just right. And the white guy said, well, damn, as long as it took to hang that one nigga, we could have hung 10. He said, I mean, and how could you not? That's something that stayed with that man since 1977, and you can't forget something like that. But that was the thinking, and he said, and that was in 77. That was, or when they shot it, 74, whatever. I don't know why 74 is sticking in my brain. And Ulysses, thank you so much. Pop said that the movie was released in 77, so it may have been 76, something, 75, something like that, whatever. But the brazenness
it was just acceptable. The unacceptable was the acceptable, and oftentimes put on display.
Yeah.
So, and then that became the nation that people want to get back, and that they thought was great, when we were subservient and not heard and not counted and not so many other things. But the reality is, like you want to think about universal law, like who died and gave you this construct and concept that you were superior? That's mental illness at its finest, and the idea that you built this into the land of the laws, or you built this into the land of the laws that you stole.
Yeah. Now I'm trying to do something. Here, JaVonne is trying to do too much. So if I get cut off again, just know that I know I'm cut off for a reason.
Just know I did it to myself.
Yes, I earned this one.
And there she goes, frozen. She'll be back. She's doing something. Not sure what. Didn't show up here yet, but she is nonetheless. And the counter is still going, which means whatever she did didn't affect me. Who thought? Well, yeah, that show is The Minstrel Man, and it was in 1977. And 9 times out of 10, they probably started shooting it the year before that. And that was a lot to even take in. I'm not even sure what to think about some of the things that folks found acceptable. It often becomes overwhelming to think about. I can say that. But I do know one thing. The tyranny is over. And we have to figure out a way to break this and fix it again. It doesn't serve its people. And I mean all of its people, and until we find a way to do that constructively, and I absolutely believe in reparations, but right now with the way that the world is designed, and everything being digital and internet and information speeds, there should be no problem with dissemination. There should be no problem with righting a lot of the economic wrongs, because that's something you can immediately do. The emotional stuff that's gonna, if at all, take a whole lot longer. But in terms of things that you can actually put your hands on, sure, you can figure that out. We can come up with a number. Yes, we can. And we can come up with a number and a dissemination process if we just put together a committee of folk that are committed to this and, want to make it work. Key. Want to make it work. We can figure that out. We've tackled much bigger things, and we've done it with other groups. So we already have a blueprint. We don't even necessarily have to revise. We just have to consider all the time and all the free labor and all the suffering and all the people for how long it went on. A lot of that's facts too. So we certainly have the information. It's not like we have to go create it. Now, do we? We can just take what's there. And then, and back then, if they were willing and able to give 40 acres and a mule, well, what's equivalent to 40 acres, retroactive 40 acres and a mule today? Because, we obviously aren't getting around on mules, and we obviously don't need them to till soil anymore. So what's equivalent to today's mule? What's equivalent to today's 40 acres with interest? Type your comments. I'd like to know. What you thinking? What's on your mind? JaVonne, you back.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I did it to myself. My bad. My bad. I'm doing too much. But that's one of the reasons why I love that you're here, because you know what? Let me just give a shout out to my homie right here. Okay. You don't skip a beat. You don't stutter. You don't be like, oh, she's gone. What am I going to do? No, you just keep it moving. I love you, man. You be like right there.
I want to ask you a question, though, because I asked the audience this morning a question, and by today's standards, right? Because once upon a time we were offered 40 acres and a mule, right? By today's standard, with interest, sure, what would be equivalent to 40 acres and a mule?
Personally, I'd be happy with the 40 acres. However, house and ever, they couldn't. I don't think that there is something, a number or anything.
Sure there is.
I don't know. I haven't thought about that.
Well, let's separate it, if you will. Now,
because what 40 acres of land is worth today, just 40 acres of barren land. Okay, forget about the interest of what could have been built on that land, what could have been manufactured, lives that could have been. See, this is the thing, the human condition. What number could I place on the human condition? What can I say about, the people that were tortured, not allowed to do live to their potential, not allowed their liberty, their freedom, their voice? I personally couldn't put they
let me make it easier. For you.
Got me on some.
Yeah. Well, I tell you like this. You're absolutely right. And that's why I was careful to say separate, because you'll never be able to pay us pain and suffering, and never be able to come with a number should not be confused with the fact that you may have to. You know what I mean? Because if we keep going years with saying it's too much, or I don't know, or I can't think that way, then we won't.
Right. No,
that's
true.
We need to, and by concluding it, let's just say that we came up with a number, and we were awarded, and our children were awarded, and our children's children were rewarded under this. No, we're not saying that that's enough. No. At all, because it wouldn't be. We don't know what, first of all, I think that a lot of us probably wouldn't opted to even come to this motherfucker, and slavery reparations carry a $17 trillion price tag. That ain't enough. But the reality is, for folk who don't understand, don't want to understand, or have the lack of capacity to understand the emotional suffering of theft and all of the rest of the stuff. And I'm not even going to, there's a lot of lanes I'm not even addressing. I'm just solely thinking about, which I know is a slippery slope. But I counter that by saying, if we do not come up with a price,
I get you.
do not come up with one, we will never, ever have one attached, because you just can't, there's some of it's priceless. A lot of it is priceless. I get it. I do. But the also reality is that's the only way that a capitalist society understands. They have to understand, like, with this me accepting the same thing they do in court. They do. It's like, it goes a little something like this. When you sign a settlement, let's just say, because this would be considered that, right? A reparations settlement. And in the settlement, by no means says that this is not harmful. Doesn't mean that it's concluded. Doesn't mean that it's equal. It's what you settle on,
Right.
And we already know that that's probably a debt that they can never repay, But I think that in terms of money, we need to look at money in that settlement. We need to look at systems we want change. We have to talk about how we want to move going forward and what we want in terms of, just the capacity to restore some of those businesses that were lost and people that were not paid their wages, and just all kinds of things we can toss in that for good measure, on top of the punitive monetary damages. Yes, that will never be enough. We'd probably bankrupt this country 3 and 4 times around the around the table. But at the end of the day, can it be done? Sure. And if we want to start with money because everything else is so overwhelming to deal with, then let's do that. Let's do that. Let's talk money. Let's talk dollars, and let's make it make sense, with the understanding that it never will.
What you're saying makes perfect sense. And okay. I know for a fact, 100%, that the economic thing that you're talking about is definitely something that I agree with. And I know for a fact that our guest agrees with that as well. Okay.
What's that Chaz is saying? He said Europe told America 6 years ago that reparations must be paid, but it wasn't televised. Well, yeah, United States gets told a lot of stuff, but the United States notoriously only thinks they have something to say, not something to hear.
Absolutely. So I'm just, I'm really, as you can probably tell, I'm still trying to do too damn much. And that's because I have been able to, and I'm not going completely off the deep end here, but I have been able to do some things creatively and technologically on this show in the past recent weeks since Indira Khan came on. Because I thought it was terrible that she wasn't able to see the comments.
Okay.
I mean, I was happy I was able to show her clip, but I felt bad that she wasn't able to see the comments, especially since your wife was so involved and funny. I just wanted to, but so I figured out how to make that happen now, as you can see. But one of the other things, now that Guy Davis is coming on, I wanted, obviously, when his mother was the most beautiful woman ever, okay? And his father was the legendary symbol of a black man. You know what I'm saying? Like one of them, yes, but I mean that voice, right? So I just wanted to put something together for that, and I wasn't able to do it because I was doing too much. But one of the wonderful things about Guy Davis is that when you speak to him, and I've had the honor and the privilege of speaking with him, you can hear his parents. You can feel them. As a matter of fact, he gave me just the slightest compliment and said that his parents would have said that about me. And I swear I almost cried, boo-hooed in front of the man. I held it in and waited until he, we weren't talking anymore. And then I was like, oh my God. I mean, and it also helped me to realize something about myself. I always knew that I held our history in high regard. Like, to me, that's everything, because you can't you can't really fully appreciate today unless you are familiar with yesterday and what it took to get there.
Say that again.
You understand what I'm saying? And
Yes.
and people like Ossie Davis, Ruby Dee, Sidney Poitier, and all of those wonderful legends who walked with Martin Luther King and who sat with Malcolm X, all contributed to Black Lives Matter. You understand?
And then their wives, like the late great Betty Shabazz, the
Yes.
late great Coretta Scott King,
and their children who are here with us still today, and which, as far as like Mr. Davis is concerned, he said Mr. Davis is my father. I get that, but you still a sir to me, right? Through his music, and he's keeping blues alive. And the history of blues, that's us. That's us. And I'm really hoping he's going to do some strumming for us today. I really hope so. But without further ado, I'm just going to bring the man on the screen, and we can continue this conversation about reparations and economics, because I know that that's something that he believes in and something that is near and dear to his heart. Everybody, the ambassador of the blues, Mr. Guy Davis.
All right, with the applause now. Thank you all so very much. Thanks for letting me join you this Saturday morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. How you dear ladies doing?
Look how well you did, Guy. Look at that. You ain't even need me, man.
Well, no, you pushed the right button, so I wouldn't be standing up here saying,
Yo, wonderful.
I've been listening in on some of your conversation, and the R word, reparations. Oh boy. You mind if I just chat a little bit?
No, for sure.
First of all,
and this is my great friend Terez. In case you don't know her, she's our co-host. Yes.
Okay, Terez, pleased to speak with you. I want to start my talking by congratulating the members of the Muskogee Creek Nation out in Oklahoma. And because times are changing now, they've been recognized by the Supreme Court as having about half of Oklahoma belonging to them. So maybe this is a change. Now, regarding reparations for African Americans, I would say that one of the first things we ought to do is speak with our brothers and sisters from the Native American population and ask them what has been the result of this, the stuff they've gotten, the casino, has it helped in building community? Has it helped in making education up to a high standard across the board? Has it helped in healthcare across the board? Housing, quality food? I would like to hear from them. I would like to get advice from people who have been very disenfranchised. Now, the things that I would ask them are the very things that I think that the African American population of this country needs. Is we need to look further than justice from the police. It's not as simple as that. Yes, that must change. You can't have your foot on my neck. That has to change. But there has to be a change on a societal level. I know I'm starting to get that Bernie Sanders sound. Look out now. Because the man spoke of change that is economic as well as just social. I mean, the government, if it came to a choice between them giving us reparations as funding or as institutions, no, they much rather apologize. They send out to support it. There'd be white men in suit and ties on the street calling on their knees, saying, you know, we were sorry for the things that happened. Very sorry. But please don't take this money right here. Because I'm making a little bit of a joke. I don't make enemies like that of my Caucasian friends. I think that them being in power means that they can afford to have had a sense of humor about a lot of things. So I gotta bring it up in that way. Racism coming out of the mouth of my father is an approximate thing. It's not. The new racism is economics. It's money. It's voting. It's enfranchisement. The people in charge who are racist know what words not to call you. They know how not to address you. So when you hear them do that, that's a distraction. It's a distraction to get you to look over here and get very upset about that word. In the meantime, who needs funding in your community ain't getting it. That is the real thrust of racism. I am my job as an entertainer. What's a soft job? I get to go out in the world, be the ambassador of the blues, and sing black music. And 20 years ago, it was way more to white people than it is now. But understand, I know that my real job is to reach into our community, to the young folks, and tell the stories of how the blues came to be, what it means, in what ways it is a historical record, and in what ways it's just entertainment. Blues, for me, is the music of survival. That is what we have been. We have been survivors.
Yes.
And all of this rap, all of this blues, all the music that sometimes we disapprove of, all the music that sometimes might not be quite Christian enough or orthodox, straight enough in society, that's the music of survivors. So it's got to be listened to anyway. Now, there may need to be some guidance. In fact, there definitely needs to be guidance. I can't hear women. I cannot hear people who the same gender as my mother and my sisters being defamed or dragged in the dirt for entertainment. I mean, that has to be spoken about. I'm not going to necessarily say to a rapper to have to shut you down completely, not unless it goes that far. But let's have a seat at the table for everybody to speak. Everybody. Well, you got me started preaching and talking.
Go on, brother.
That's it, man. Look, man, you got it.
Yes.
Well, I just happen to have composed a little song a few albums back, and let's do a little sound check. I got these finger picks. I don't know if I need them. I need to find out if my voice can be heard over this guitar. I mean, I want it all to be heard, but I've got to be clear. You don't want my mother coming back on the planet and say, "Son, enunciate louder." She got a place to be. I got a place to be. So I'm just going to remember what she said and try to do it right. Now I'm going to do a piece that I wrote called Kokomo Kid. Let me see if I just might do a little quick adjustment here with this capo on the neck of this guitar. Let's just see if it's okay. Now, Kokomo Kid, let me see if I can tell you a little bit of the story that starts it out, okay? I'm going to tell you the story of a man named Kokomo Kid. He was born back in the 1800s, a black man. His job was to deliver coal to the White House in Washington, D.C. Now, he would drive a horse-drawn cart along the street, and right around the corner from the east wing of the White House, there used to be a coal chute and he would dump the coal down that chute. And after that coal went down, Kokomo Kid became part of the shadow government of the United States of America. You see, sometimes things and people needed to get into the White House that couldn't be seen coming in through the front door. Same thing going out. You couldn't be seen going out the front door. You had to go down the basement, climb up that coal chute and get a ride with Kokomo Kid. Typically, after that coal went down, then nose powder would go down. We don't mean the kind that a woman uses in her boudoir. And alcohol, exotic alcohol from all over the world. Even during Prohibition in the 20th century, some of the finest alcohol in the world got into the White House by way of Kokomo Kid. By then it would have been his son. Women would go down that coal chute 3 at a time head first, who weren't married to anybody in the White House. And you have to understand that this is the way things operated for a while there. Kokomo Kid, let me tell you the story of Kokomo Kid past and present. Back when Prohibition was the law of the land, politicians knew we didn't understand that drinking was the way that laws got made. They got laid and bribes were paid. When the white bootleggers got sent to jail, nobody couldn't come and go that bail except for Kokomo. Kokomo Kid, talk about Kokomo. Kokomo Kid. When liquor got cut down, the government almost shut down. They needed a bag man who looked like a rag man, who better than a black man to come serve the white man his hoochie liquor a whole lot quicker than the white bootleggers could do. I'm talking about Kokomo. Kokomo Kid. My name's Kokomo. Kokomo Kid. Let me tell you about Annie Oakley now. Oh, buckskin mama got her very own drama, come down from the mountain with the money that she counting for the governor of a state down south on the bottom where I got him when I shot him in the foot trying to keep the size 10 out his mouth. My name's Kokomo. Kokomo Kid, the governor was talking too much. My name's Kokomo. Kokomo Kid. Run, get the shovel, dig a hole, Papa. Run, get the shovel, dig a hole in the ground. I was living on the rough, I was living on the tough, I was lifting up the lid, I was living off the grid, but then they found me. They want to use my skills, gave me money so I could pay my bills. They call me Kokomo. Kokomo Kid. Call me Kokomo. Kokomo Kid. Now we're moving to the present tense. Washington insiders want drugs and sex. It ain't about who's rich, but who connects. You gotta know the ropes and who to go to. Who did your favors and who do you owe to? Office to office, I can hack your email. Find out if you like male or female. I keep secrets if you say so. But everybody knows you got to pay more to Kokomo. Kokomo Kid. My name's Kokomo. Kokomo Kid. I've calmed all of Washington's fears. Kept the Supreme Court quiet for years. You got governors, senators, even representatives waiting for my top off. Medicine for a bad cough. I got a meeting at 3. I gotta bring Coke to the GOP. They call me Kokomo. Kokomo Kid. My name's Kokomo. Kokomo Kid. You can call me Kokomo. Kokomo Kid. My name's Kokomo. Kokomo Kid.
Absolutely love it.
Now, whether or not Kokomo Kid is real, we're not going to worry about that. You have to know that the history
and the involvement in the situation is real as it can be. And the problem going on in this country today with the top end of the government is that they are trying to continue to avoid fulfilling the Constitution as it is written. If it was done as it was written, we wouldn't have had the Civil War. Slavery would have ended in the late 1700s. And now, economically, we'd have found a way to combine just enough socialism so everybody had a little land to live on, and we could go forward. But no, we didn't do that. Didn't do that. So, Kokomo Kid, my job as a storyteller is to use my imagination to tell stories. Now, like Garrison Keillor and like William Shakespeare, I don't have to speak the truth in order to tell the truth. I can create fiction to tell the truth. I can do all sorts of things to tell the truth. And the truth is what is on the plate right now. Here we have this, you know, how many times can you think about the George Floyd murder? How many times? That was the precipitating factor. That was the straw, the last straw that broke the camel's back under the weight of a whole bunch of predisposing factors. Not only deaths by lynching, but we've had serious hurt, harm, and danger by lynching. There are people talking about maybe we should rename some of these Confederate named military forts and things like that. Well, I could think of one fort, Fort Bragg, where there was a black soldier in World War II named Isaac Woodard. He trained up through that fort, went to Europe. It might have been Asia, forgive me. When he came home, he was a decorated veteran. He was riding in the back of a bus through South Carolina to get home. I forget exactly which state was his home. But at one point, he got taken off the bus by white sheriffs and deputies, taken into a prison and beaten. And with their billy clubs, they blinded him. They took his eyes out. And he was put back on the bus. And there was a man in Tulsa, Oklahoma named Woody Guthrie who wrote a song about that. We're singing at the moment. It's called The Ballad of Isaac Woodard. But I guess I'm going two directions at once here. One is that I thought when I heard this story, my dad told me this ages ago about Isaac Woodard. I thought the man had died. He didn't die till 1995, I think it was.
Oh, wow.
And he lived in the Bronx, which is the borough that I live in. So there are people who have to live with this terror every day, the same terror that killed George Floyd, but so many others. And you hear us warned by the media pundits and go, don't play the race card. Don't y'all play the race card. You're playing the race card now. I'm going to tell you, there is not enough trees in all the forests of the world to create enough paper and cardboard to make enough decks of cards to fulfill that. No. This race card is getting played now. Now we have the choice between revolution and evolution. Now, I live in a community that there's a lot of senior citizens here. There are people who love people around here. In the outer area, yes, there are drugs, there are unfortunate things in the neighborhood, but it's been coming up bit by bit, like the fence been coming up too. And in the midst of the George Floyd demonstrations, the protests, there have been some people who have done crazy things. I'm talking about burning up things and looting. And we just absolutely got to get a handle on that. There has to be organization that Black communities have got to have at their core, because we can't have that. We can't have that because what I think we're looking for from the police community is the same fair treatment that they give to every other community in and around New York City, New York State, and across this country. We are looking for equal treatment and to stand in a court and be equal before the law. We don't have to be the same shade of skin. We just got to be equal before the law. That is what the Constitution's promise is. And that is what we have been denied for so very long. I know y'all gonna hit it. You got me running my mouth. I know, JaVonne, you wanted to ask me some questions. You better sneak a few in there because your lips are gonna
Look, I'm good. I am so good. You know what you just brought to my mind is that, you know, people are talking Republican and Democrat. I'm neither. I am a constitutionalist. I actually agree with the promises of the Constitution, and I would like a political party that holds true to that Constitution. To constitutional law, though, I once took a course, and what I learned is that we really don't have any rights. No, like I got this right, I got that right. The only right is the First Amendment, where that says that we have these rights, unless the government, for some reason, believes that they need to impede upon your right in order for the country to go forward. In other words, you have the right to own land. However, if the government needs that land for something, they have
oil.
Yeah, you know, they could.
Indian, you out of here.
Right. So there are some even with your children. These are my children. I own my children. They're my children. You know, you can't take my children unless the government believes that you are abusive or maltreating your children. If you have placed marks and bruises and, you know, your children say they're being sexually abused, then the government can step in and remove your children.
Okay.
Although you do have the right to try to get them back, you know, to do certain things to get them back. But I'm just saying that, you know, although there are some things, we don't have any complete absolute in the Constitution that says that we have rights. However, I think that the Constitution is a good map to where we could be. You understand what I mean?
Yes, I do. What you were just laying out about if a child is being abused, that you don't have to. Yes, there's checks and balances in place.
Right.
But certain people at the very top end of the United States of America and the government ain't deal with no checks and balances.
Exactly.
You want to see my tax returns? No. Go look at his tax return.
Exactly. This particular this presidency has shown every error, every which way that a president or a government official can ruin the country, can sidestep every law, if not for checks and balances. Because there have been no checks and balances. There have been a couple of checks, but there's not been any balances.
Yeah, my check bounced. At best, democracy gives us a forum, but it has weaknesses, and those weaknesses are what certain people in the government slip through.
Yeah.
Democracy is supposed to let you and I argue in court, my side and your side, and then it's supposed to look between us. And then there's somebody who can find a way to slip between the cracks and take everything I got or you got. So democracy, it's better than despotism, but it sure is a big mess. I'm gonna tell you, if autocracy comes back and the poor folks find the budget acts, all them congressmen and senators better start running. Oh no. See, if they bring back hangings and the French Revolution with the decapitations, oh man, some folks better start moving. I'm telling you, because that's if we did not live in this democratic, quote unquote, country. We have here in America, to misquote James Baldwin, the illusion of democracy.
Mm.
You know, and the illusion of freedom. And James Baldwin said something to the effect that the problem with white people is that they believe that they are white. we have to understand that white is just another shade. America, during these times of tremendous change, and these are just the beginning of those times, at least I hope, is discovering that it must become part of the world as opposed to making the world accommodate it for us. You know? Now we are part of this world. So all those weaknesses being displayed on our up end, we have weaknesses down in the people's end. I was saying before, we need organization. We need lots of community forums to be able to speak within our community, to speak to other community. I want to sit down with people, all kinds of people. If the UN was what it was supposed to be, it would not only be in Israel, there would be in Palestine. It would have been 2 states if it was what it was supposed to be. Because I understand that's what they promised. They were going to be 2 states side by side. But somehow the economics or the politics, and there's ways to slip down those cracks, and it wreaks havoc. And some of that is being corrected. By the way, I looked on the internet. It's like alien to me because, you know, dumb people shouldn't have smart devices. But I saw on the wall, on one of the walls between Israel and the Palestinian territories, there was a painting of George Floyd, of his face. It's very recognizable.
Mm.
And it actually had next to it the Palestinian flag. Now, I didn't come on this show to get politics going between Israel and Palestine, but I do come to say that everybody needs a voice. Everybody.
Amen.
Everybody got to come to the table, because if you shut people up, then they're going to have to get something to get your attention. They're going to start lighting some fires. Where have we seen that? We're going, pulling guns. Oh, and see, now don't get me started talking about the secret army.
Talk about it.
Bar and Washington, D.C., and the president coming out to get his picture took it to, no, secret armies, no, I ain't even about that. And then they trying to be cute up to the wall. I don't know who they were. I didn't send them. Anybody listening, anybody watching this show, do not take that. There are not to be secret armies. No, sir. No, sir. And Billy Barr ain't the one who has the power to send them out. Yet the president has a way of getting other people to do stuff. I wish, we're laughing in a way because it's so ridiculous, but it's so dangerous. We're laughing to keep from crying here. It is so completely dangerous. It is so anti-democracy.
A lot of it anti-human.
Yes, anti-human, anti-democratic. And democratic only in the pure sense, meaning that everybody's got a voice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Trying to be cute. Well, we don't know who they were.
Mm-hmm.
JaVonne Terez, secret armies. The president goes on about how terrible Barack Obama dealt with the situation in the Ukraine when Russia invaded the Crimea. I'm gonna bring this all together. It sounds like I'm just grabbing stuff out of the air. I'm not.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Okay. I happened to be on my very first trip ever to the Ukraine on a day, and I was in Kiev, the capital, on a day when busloads of demonstrators came into town to walk around in the public, and they had many police around. So it was an organized event. They were demonstrating to say that the Ukraine wanted to go to the euro and away from the Russian ruble. I was there on that day. I left to go on tour further in the Ukraine. By the way, I've been to Russia like maybe 5 times overall. And my ignorance of when I first got to the Ukraine, I thought Ukraine was just part of Russia. I thought it was part like a subdivision, but it's not. It was part of the Soviet Union. They both were, but Ukrainians are not Russian. Well, I went away. That statue of Lenin got pulled down, and then you heard about secret troops coming in from Russia with no ID on them, coming into the Ukraine, truckloads of them. You heard about them shooting down an airliner, and now Russia has got control of that part of the Ukraine. If that's what a secret army can do, and the government of this country is just going to kind of make a wink and a nod to Vladimir Putin, and then make a wink and make a wink and a nod saying, we don't know who this army was. Billy Barr didn't send them. I didn't send them. Gee, they must have just kind of showed up. No, we got to be very aware. You call me ambassador of the blues. I would like to think, I don't know about that, but I would like to think that I'm a person who has eyes and ears and the blessing of getting to go places to not only perform for people, but to hear their stories and their music. We got to remember this world is precariously balanced here. And secret armies, no. I'm gonna hush for a minute. I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee here so I can shut up just a minute.
I love it, actually. And right before you came on, Mr. Davis, we were saying that, well, I was saying that, you know, your parents were legendary, and they were on a lot of the front lines, and even on television. They were both larger than life, and they are a representative of the soil to which you were birthed, you know, and through your lens, you know, growing up under the legend of the living legends of at the time of Ruby Davis and Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee, what were some of the things? What was it like? What did they help you through? And then your understanding was like there ever something that you witnessed or were a part of, and they helped you understand it from so that you could filter it as a child?
I'll start with the question you just asked me. What was one thing they helped me with, something that I witnessed and didn't understand? I remember the first time I ever got called the N-word. I say the N-word. I know you and I, we were all sitting in a room, it was just us. We'd use the word and understand each other very clearly. I'm not sure who all this is going to. So for now, I'm going to say the N-word.
Okay.
Apparently this little white boy in a window, I was in like first grade or second grade, coming home by myself, which isn't something, you know, my dad had to walk me to school for a long time. And I had a paper in my hand, a little star on top of the paper because I did good at something. And the little boy called out the window and called me that. Now, I didn't know what it meant, so I thought he was saying hello, so I had to wave at him and kept on going home. I think I was coming home for lunch. I wasn't even finished with school. I was coming home for lunch. And I asked, Mom, Dad, what is that? And I'll never forget the look on their faces. They looked at each other, they looked at me. I don't remember which one put me on their lap, and the other one went and got some books off the shelf. And they sat with me, and they explained to me about racism, about the words that you call people when you want to make them feel like they are less than you are. That's one thing I could say that I remember that they helped me with, but how many, I guess virtually all the Black parents in the country back when this happened to me had to deal with that in some form or fashion. Fortunately, it was just a word. I know other stories of other people who worked Didn't get off with just words. Growing up with my parents, my sisters and I all kind of agreed it was a very ordinary thing. We didn't know what, if you're celeb and you're known by so many people, they were just mom and dad to us. And when you did stupid stuff, you got upside the head. I earned a few of those. I was lucky it was upside the head, man. Mom would take off the belt, baby, and then she bend it up and go, pow, like that. And then, your whole thing would tense up. Because you knew it was about to come. Oh. And my dad, when it came to punishment, I was way less than the angel they must have thought they were getting. When it came to punishment, he was a very wise man. My dad was a big country Negro. I'm talking about if he hit you, he'd kill you. His arm was at like, boom, you'd be gone. So he would take off his belt, and you'd have to hold your palm up flat, and he would take that belt, wham, so he could hurt you without ever harming you. And that was a distinction that I so loved him for. It was very clear after the pain. You had to look him in the eye. He'd tell you what you did, and you had to, come clean. You had to get straight. Now, my mother, on the other hand, was just a little bitty girl. But when you're a child, you don't realize that your mom used to be a little Harlem street thug woman to go upside your head and knock you out. I mean, my mama had hands faster than Bruce Lee.
What?
I'm gonna sit up here and tell you, if a teenage boy was to talk out the side of his head, talk outside his neck at my mom, you'd be hit before you saw it coming. You wouldn't, it's like your knees are buckling, and then you think, Mayday, I've been hit. I'm going down. I'm gonna fix on me because I'm going down. Boy, that lady get all up in your business and hurt your feelings.
Wow.
Let me wrap this up a little bit. I got older, and I could deflect my mother's blows a little better. And if I was going to say something stupid, I knew to be far enough away. But I generally wasn't that stupid. But I was I was in, I think she was scolding me about some chore I didn't do, whatever. And I was sort of giving her the attitude, like, talk to the hand. I didn't say that. Mind you, I ain't said that, but it was a little bit of that. And I was down in the basement up in our house in New Rochelle. My mom left the basement. My dad came downstairs a few minutes later. Says, son, your mom's crying. Said, perhaps you don't need a mother. And he left. I crumbled to the floor and wept. So I will say that I grew up in a very ordinary way. Had to get good grades in school just like everybody. I had to learn that a teenager with a smart mouth was not necessarily as good as you might think it is. But I knew love in that house. My sisters and I knew love in that house. My sisters each have 3 children. I've got 1 son, and there's a lot going on. So, oh my God, is this coming up on your show, Melba Moore? Hello, ladies. Hello, guys. Yes. Melba Moore, darling, if you are hearing my voice, I first saw you in 1969 on the set of Cotton Comes to Harlem. Loved you then. Loved you when I saw you coming outside the theater in 1970, was it? Broadway, Pearly. I have loved you forever and continue. You honor me by including me in this hello. And wow. So I can say is wow. No more forever. Okay, so I know I'm talking, and it seems like I'm talking all over the place, but I think the basic values my mom and dad taught to me were that if people give you things, if they pay you for work, then you owe them the best work you can do. You owe them everything you have. You don't go out and get no headache. And well, I have to go smoke a cigarette. I have to go try this white powder over here. No. In fact, in our house, we didn't grow up with that, but we grew up with conversations that let us know that if we were going to try something crazy, you better come home and do it. Don't do it in the street because you could die in a hurry. So I learned the value of giving all you have to what you do. Take another sip of coffee with them.
I love it.
Hi, Miss Moore. How are you? She only pops up when she loves you.
That's okay by me.
When she wants to say hi to a guest, that's when she pops up. So you are special to her as well.
Well, then, if I may speak further, and it seems like I am allergic to talking, not today. I do a live cast on Facebook every morning but Saturdays at 10 a.m. It's called Coffee with Kokomo. I go under the nom de plume. I go under the name Kokomo Kid on Facebook. That's my Facebook page, Kokomo Kid with 2 D's. Every morning, 10 a.m., I do something called Coffee with Kokomo, and it just goes 15, 20 minutes. I play a little music, talk a little talk, and we do a coffee salute. Just, and that's just a way of expressing love. Here we are all separated in one night.
Absolutely.
And I see Melba's words. She loved my dad and mom, such good memories. Well, I want to tell you what, Ms. Moore, if you reach out on Facebook Messenger to Kokomo Kid, I would so happily answer you in any way that I can. And I will tell my sisters who are out in various places today that I heard from you. This is treasure to me. This is treasure, y'all. This is treasure. Oh, Melba.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Absolutely love it. I'm so happy that we were able to make that connection for you. There are people who love you, love your parents without knowing you, without knowing your sisters. I can say that they're like distant cousins to me, being that your parents, although clearly I didn't know them personally, were like family. When you would hear your father's booming voice over some, oh, that's Ossie Davis. I know him. Oh, look, it's Ruby. I know her. She cares about me. You got this feeling that without them knowing you or calling your name, that they cared about you and your well-being and you doing the best that you could. And you had to be a credit to your race because of them.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, JaVonne, and I'm gonna piggyback that by saying that they were very active at a time when you didn't see many images like us on the screen or in the public figure, and they carried that with much grace given the climate. Their messages were clear about what they felt, and it felt like at the risk of whatever, it was the love of the people transcended as well. I did have an opportunity to meet both of them through the business, and just the only thing I could think of at the time, because how you have like a litany of things you want to say if you're ever in room with and you name, the only thing I could bring myself to say was thank you, just thank you for representing, and they both were so graceful, and of course, like I co-sign the fact that your father was larger than life in person as well, and very very dignified. He had a very royal or regal feeling in person, and that was it. And I was grateful to both of them just for the images that they projected at the time when there weren't a whole lot, And then bringing it to one of my favorite scenes was a Spike Lee joint, when they showed the dichotomy of how, in one of the ways that we could only read it as a Black a person in the community. But when they were in a scene with Gator, and for those of you who know Gator was played by Samuel L. Jackson. And he came to the house to borrow money, because for his addiction, and how mom, showed the layers in which, and the complexity, all in her movement. You couldn't tell me that they didn't birth Gator. You didn't tell me that they did not, that Gator wasn't their son in real life, in terms of how they managed that particular scene, with dad being pastor, very clear about the boundaries and what he wasn't going to tolerate as a parent. And then mom, of course, loving her sons. And then the introduction of the mother-son dynamic, and wanting just to give them the money to go. Loved them to give them the money to go. How they, without the words of the script now, because there were some things that were there, a lot of ad libs, but how they were able to convey the story in body language, and even how Sam just tied it all up. But those two in action were a force in storytelling. And it does not surprise me one bit that you had the capacity to teach yourself the guitar, and now you are a storyteller, through your music. So very, very interesting, very prominent legacy you come from, just that's my opportunity for telling you what I feel. And thank you.
Well, thank you too. You honor me here, including me up in that mix. The folks, their main word was family. When we got together, the same way that real estate agents would say neighborhood, 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 my father would say family, family, family. And family was the one thing that was one of the harsh things that slavery had the power to take away from us all those years ago. To sell part of your family away down the river somewhere. During a truth that you saw her children sold off, except for maybe one, something like that. Family, family, family. I'm glad that they were able to reach out and make you feel like family. They emphasized, my parents emphasized the importance of people who work backstage, behind the scenes, people who work to make things happen, not just the glamorous face, out front. I don't mean negatively, but there's Beyonce, and then there's the people who carry the 4 blocks worth of train on her dress. That you gotta you gotta have people to make it happen, and people involved in the media are especially a favorite part of our family, the Davis family, because it is the media, by the media, that we are able to make ourselves known to the world and to the public. Now, I think my folks were in the world doing what they were doing for a reason, and in a time that it was happening. It was happening in a specific time. The things that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King did in the late 50s, early 60s had to be done then. Later, they would not have worked out so well, or at least quite the same as they did. And there was a time for the Panthers to be doing what they did. It was the time for the two brothers in the Olympics to stand with their fists raised, not knowing that's going to be more than half a century later. The world would echo that, even though so many of us had the sympathy, we couldn't give them their careers back, which were taken for going outside the Americans, disrespecting the flag by raising your fist or getting down on your knee. There's some people in this world, I ain't gonna name no names, but boy, I wish that they would keep names like Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and Frederick Douglass out of their mouth. Those names should burn their mouth when they try to speak them. Because there are some people in charge and in power. Like I said, the people who can harm us most know what to say and what not to say. They know perfectly. I promise you, the best preacher in the world must be the devil. He must know the Bible better than any preacher. I can forward, sideways, and can quote it in Sanskrit if you ask him to.
Facts.
Oh yeah. And the thing that's gonna hurt anybody the most is the thing that is the most attractive, most convenient, most how nice that is. There were people in this world who had to sacrifice so much during the HUAC, House Un-American Activities Committee. Lord have mercy. Senator Joseph McCarthy, assisted by Roy Cohn, who at one point later in his life had this fellow named, I think, Trump working for him. Those people had the power to destroy careers and lives by saying, well, he's a communist. You're a communist. You look like a communist. You smell like a communist. You walked around with communists. You were seen with communists. My parents were low on that radar. Paul Robeson stood up and said, yes, I'm a tall black man. If you're going to chop me down, I'll make a big target. But he also said, don't come at me with no stupidity. Don't come at me with stupidity. He spoke about Russia and communism in a time when Russia was well known for not espousing that there are the N-word, that all people are supposed to be on an equal level playing field. It didn't turn out that way with Joseph Stalin, but there were things that had, the checks and balances and things. There was a black entertainer named Josh White. He was called before the House Un-American Activities Committee. Josh in the 30s had been a gospel singer. Before that, I think he was a blues singer. And after that, he became a folk singer. And he was known by people like Pete Seeger and Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee and Leadbelly. And he used to play in those circles, Big Bill Boonsey. Well, Pete was very angry at Josh because Josh named names. He went there. They asked you, are you now or ever have you been a communist? He said no. I said, well, we ain't gonna let you off that easy. You got to name some names. The night before he went in front of the committee, Josh White went to Paul Robeson. Man to man said, Paul, if I don't name names, they're not going to let me work again. I'm going to name you. And Paul said, do what you have to do. Basically, I'm paraphrasing broadly here. Josh named names. But who amongst us has walked in Josh's shoes? People were very angry at Josh. I'm quoting Harry Belafonte saying that. Josh, when he was a young black boy, saw his father beaten almost to death in front of his eyes by a white man. I don't recall what part of the South. I do not recall. So Josh knew fear. He was taught to fear. And he was afraid. And I'm hoping that in the broad sense of history, Josh will be forgiven. He will come, there will be a reckoning, but ultimately I'm hoping he'll be forgiven, even though he betrayed us. Harriet Tubman, the most famous quote that I've ever heard from her. Y'all, I'm going to have to say the word because this is a word that Harriet used, and I'm going to try to give a context. As you know, the woman was busy freeing people, taking them, walking them up north to either to Maryland and eventually up into Canada. And there was tremendous fear. These people who were raised as slaves, they knew fear. And one black man in a critical moment when there were whites nearby was ready to throw his hands up and scream, I'm here, please don't kill me. and he was about to give up the entire group of black people. Harriet Tubman drew her revolver, pointed it at that man, and said, and I quote, and I do not use this word gratuitously, but it makes a point. She said, "Dead niggas tell no tales." Now, that woman was responsible for all of the lives in that group. And she had to be ready to kill that man to make sure that that happened. And history says that Harriet never lost a passenger. She never lost a fare on the Underground Railroad. And she had to use ugly words. So ugly words in and of themselves, I don't think, are necessarily racist. I seem to be rambling, but I don't think I am. Let me keep with it here, man. You hear about some black man, some governor, whoever it was, who wore blackface at a party. You hear about somebody who used some very poor language with the N-word. Bill Maher, the comedian, said something about, man, they treat me like a field N-word, you know. Like now, it was spoken to be clever, you know, to make a comparison about how hard he was working in the TV industry. Okay, for me, Bill's crime was a lack of sensitivity. A lack of sensitivity that that word might upset some people, not just because it's a word, but there are people in living memory who have seen people lynched, who have heard that word and seen that Southern battle flag raised and seen their own people die in the most cruel and inhuman ways. I'm not going to go into it and start talking, praising the Führer and waving, you know, some kind of Nazi emblem. You don't do that. So I would like to live in a world where the people who transgress are given a chance, an opportunity to learn from their misdeed, apologize, and hopefully grow from that. I don't want to live in a world where automatically, okay, from now on, if you use the N-word, you go to jail. I want to live in a world where we can make sense out of it, where there can be forgiveness, but it has to be across the board to all people. Now, there are some people who ain't going to bite, and those people, I'm sorry, there's going to be some serious reckoning. But I don't want us to be so reflexive against a word or a thing like that. No, we have to, we got to realize, again, we all got to have a voice. We all got to talk. Don't get me started.
No.
Pete Seeger. Okay, I'm going to shut it up here. Pete Seeger wrote a song based on Ecclesiastes in the Bible. And the words go, to everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. And that, like I said, there was a time for Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King to be here and do what he did. There was a time for Malcolm X to walk this earth, say what he said, exactly the way he said. And then there's a way to kind of keep moving. We have to deal with the times as they come.
Well, I'm grateful for the time now, because the kids are, and I say kids with all due respect, the younger generation, they have taken a blueprint and they have remixed it, and they are have taken to the streets, and for the first time, it is a global affair. You know, we get hyper fixed on the United States, but it is a global affair with this. They are black, and we have to remember that those ships dropped off people all over the world, not just the United States. And it is time for folks all over the world to make changes, in systemic changes that result in equality. Now, if you're going to talk about politics or parties, you know, I'm not really political. I just know bullshit when I see it. And I would like to say that, you know, if there is a party to be made, let's start talking about the Equality Party, or and particularly, and as a Black woman in this country, that is a whole nother debt that cannot be paid by virtue of the fact that we have nursed a lot of these babies willfully and forcefully throughout our entire existence. And that's and that's including ours own, and that's a debt that we can never be repaid. But I'd like to do something in closing with you, Mr. Davis, if possible. We have this game we do called Rapid Fire. And that's when I say a word and you say the first thing that comes to mind, the first word that comes to mind when I say a word. I'm going to say 5 words, and then JaVonne is going to say 5 words. And this is just to give, not that I think, I feel like I know you. I feel like we're kindred in some spaces, but this is to give folks a peek behind the veil. So I'll say a word, you say the first word that comes to mind. And
okay, this is literally any word. I can go there. Perhaps
you can go wherever you like.
Before we play rapid fire, and I definitely want to go there with you. I was watching a video, an interview that you and your sisters were a part of, and there were a couple of things that came up about your upbringing, and I just wanted you to talk about them just a little bit before we do rapid fire. And I definitely want to go there, if we have a couple of minutes. So they talked about a time where Malcolm X was at your kitchen table. Visitors, people who came by, like the portiers, you. I think one of your sisters said one morning y'all got up for school, and the Black Panther Party, like a lot of Panther Party members, were laid out sleeping in the living room because your parents had hid them for the night. Just like so much, Dr. King, just people who visited. Could you just talk about some of the people and some of the memories, if you could? I just wanted to hear a little bit about that, and then we'll do the rapid fire. I'm sorry, I know I've been in and out, but
okay. My sister told me that one summer or one day while I was away at summer camp, Huey Newton and some of the other brothers from the Panther stayed at our home in New Rochelle. Huey got to sleep in my bed. I wasn't there to see that. Malcolm X, I'm not positive that he came to the house, but I think he did. But I know he came to Sidney Poitier's house and other people who were close to and sometimes neighbors of my parents. Let's see. You wouldn't know the name Howard Da Silva, but he was a white Jewish man who had been named by the House Un-American Activities. I remember meeting him there. I remember Daddy King, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's father, showing up at the door of my grandmother's house. This is, after a while after Martin had been killed. And he was the guest preacher at the local Baptist church. And somebody told him that my grandmother made the best greens. So there he was, just standing at the door. We had Jesse Jackson, who performed my older sister's first wedding ceremony. It was a beautiful ceremony. Wrong husband, but a beautiful ceremony. I remember speaking to Jesse and having him just be there, like anybody would be in the house. Gosh, who have I talked to? I've spoken to Langston Hughes on the phone, who I think had called to talk to my dad. Langston Hughes, the magnificent poet laureate of I'm about to say the Native African American people. I got a little sideways there. Of African American people, this great poet and writer. I'm sure the minute I close my mouth for more than 10 seconds, I'll think of the name of another person. Well, yeah, folks were there. My folks used to have soirees where people would come by, they would read their plays, read their poems, get together. I remember before our first house in Mount Vernon even had a lot of furniture. They were sitting on crates or whatnot. My mom was making sandwiches, and 10 feet away from me, I have the kitchen knife that she used to use to cut the bread, which was the same knife that her father, my grandfather, used when he was a cook and a waiter on the Pullman train. I still have that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I could tell you also, apart from my parents, I got to know Yolanda King just a little bit. Reverend Dr. King and Coretta Scott King's eldest daughter. When she was 18 years old, her first year in New York City at NYU, and she was studying drama, or at least she was in a play. I don't know if she was studying drama. That's where I first met her and said, hey. I was surprised because she knew who I was. And on and on like that. Oh, regarding Malcolm X, my uncle, Uncle Tommy, I don't remember what number, 13X or 34X, something like that, was one of Malcolm's lieutenants. And he told me stories of, this is going sideways from what you're talking about, told me stories of being visited by the New York City police in the days before Malcolm was assassinated. And he told me how they came in, one came in, he sat him at the kitchen table, he just left his billy club on the table and talked to him like he's a friend. And then he went for the door and headed out and said, oh, I left my billy club in there, could you just hand it to me? And my uncle knew that if you put your get your fingerprints on that billy club, that's all over. They can pump you full of bullets and say you tried to kill that man. So he said, no, you come back and get it. But that same uncle had a closet with a steel door, not a thick steel, but thick enough. And behind that door was a rifle. And he could, if somebody came in the door who meant ill will, and he lived in Queens, right near Malcolm X and Betty. If somebody came in the door who meant them harm, he'd reach behind that door for that rifle. And with the protection of the door, he could shoot at that person. This was my mother's brother. That same brother who is an electrician and got a job in the 60s wiring the White House for sound. Not the whole White House. They got a bunch of contractors and gave them each a portion to do. So I know that goes far afield in your question, but yeah, I've seen and met some people and heard some stories.
Well, maybe the question was wrong because that was a very good answer. All right, rapid fire. You're up first, Rez. You got the rules, right, guy?
I can say, well, I'm just saying one word that comes to mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it could be any word. There's no censorship, or this is our show. Nobody's going to get in trouble for anything that you say. And you don't worry about hurting anyone's feelings. This is our show. If your feelings are hurt, think about why. That
well, if my sister hear me say the wrong thing, it might be some more than hurt feelings. Okay, but I'm kidding. Okay.
Community.
Family.
Black people.
Honor.
Legacy.
River.
Love.
Home.
Children.
Mine.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're up next.
Music.
Religion.
Blues.
Key.
Ossie.
Rayford Chapman. That's a real name.
Wow. Look at that. Ruby.
Royalty.
Luxury.
Honesty.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You're going to have to shut me up real soon. When you said Ruby and I answered royalty, my mind went to something very personal for our family. It was upon the death of my mother. As she lay in the bed, my sister said, after a while, her face relaxed in a certain kind of way where she looked regal. She looked like a queen. I don't know how to explain it because death is not an easy proposition. And when I got there and we're around the bed, we're dealing with that. But after a while, there was something in her countenance that was peaceful and somehow almost regal. So I just want to say that.
Thank you for that.
Just that
and let me, this is a question that actually it came to mind when I saw a picture of you with your mother. This was a long time ago. I think probably even prior to having a show. But I wondered, and it just brought to mind right now, when your mother is the glamorous, I guess sometimes glamorous, because I'm sure you had an opportunity to see her in moments where she was not glamorous, but with that striking beauty as a mom, what was it like choosing who you would date? I mean, like, your mother was beautiful. Inside, the strength, the poise, and I'm gonna also say, what was it like bringing a date home? Like, how did your family, your mom and your dad, react when? Because I'm just gonna assume, Guy, that you had a dating experience that might have been comparable to the rest of us, where we picked a few lemons before we had a taste of honey, maybe. And our parents seem to know it long before we do. What was your dating experience like coming up? Let me just say it like that.
Coming up when I was a teenager, Mom had an edge to her that doesn't show in the public. And I wasn't in a hurry to introduce girls around my mom to my mom. I remember being in our living room with a young lady from school, and I guess we were in junior high school or high school, somewhere in there, and there was some music playing, a little bit on the slow side. And I recall we were kind of swaying on the slow side in the living room. And at that time, my mama came into the living room with the dim lights and had a watering can and started watering the flowers. And I sort of looked. So it was a little edgy. Now, years later, after I had already had a son and I was single again, I brought home a woman that Mom felt very comfortable around. And, there were a lot of good, genuine family kind of smiles and things. She struck her that way. But when I was a young Teenage Prince. Well, mom, mom would keep me in the slow track, real slow. And I'm telling you, I'm glad she did, because a lot of my contemporaries got those just baby here and that grandbaby there, and one of them got a great grandbaby. And not that it ain't wonderful to have the children, but when you ain't ready to have the children, that's rough. So mom was some of her most strict moments had to do with me and dating. Oh, and my sister too. They didn't catch no break. No break. If the man was wearing black, my little sister was not supposed to go out. It got a little edgy sometimes. That's all.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I just had to go there, because as someone again who reveres your parents as just amazing part of our heritage. They are, I claim them as ours, and therefore you are ours too. You are a part of our legacy, our heritage, our family. And I think that is something that I learned from them, along with others, but they were, for me, the tops. They were royalty. I'm glad you said that. So the last thing is that we need a drop from you. Hi, this is Guy Davis, and you're listening, or no, I keep saying listening like we're still on the podcast. Hi, this is Guy Davis, and you're in the basement with JaVonne and Terez.
Let's do that. You about ready for that thing?
Yes, we're ready.
Hi, this is Guy Davis, and you are in the basement with JaVonne and Terez for your listening pleasure.
Awesome. That's so
Love you so much. Thank you so much. Can you tell everybody how they can follow you on social media, where they can pick up Kokomo Kid?
Oh, okay. My personal Facebook page is Kokomo Kid with 2 D's. My professional widespread page, which is really Facebook page, which is kind of run by my manager because it's a fan page, is Guy Davis, American roots musician. My website is guydavis.com. Oh, and I forgot to say, we've got mugs, you'll see. We have coffee with Kokomo mugs. So if you get interested in mugging with me, you can talk to the folks at the website. So that's guydavis.com. Facebook in the mornings. Coffee with Kokomo is the name of the little 20-minute spot I do.
And what time? What time does it air? What time are you on
10
Facebook?
10 a.m. Eastern time.
10 a.m. Eastern
New York
Standard
time. Yeah.
All right. So everybody, please watch, support, get your mug, and God bless you.
Cup of Joe with Kokomo Kid.
Cup of Joe with Kokomo. Yeah, I like cup of Joe with
Kokomo. How about that? Look at that. See, you ain't even know. GuyDavis.com. And we really appreciate you. And I will be in your inbox a little bit later.
Terez, JaVonne, thank you so much for including me in on your Saturday machination.
Yes, thank you.
Bye, everybody. Everybody enjoy the rest of your week and stay safe. Stay safe.